Welcome, welcome. I'll let some folks trickle in. Welcome, everybody. To make sure our chat is working, maybe throw in there where you're calling in from or what area that you live in or work in. Throw that into the chat to make sure that that's working. Kansas City. All right, it is working. That's good. North Carolina, Pittsburgh, California, Boston, Puerto Rico. Yep. Thanks, Hermes. Awesome, guys. I'm Megan McGuire. I'm here with you today. We're going to chat about to pay or to not pay, if we should be considering this plan or not. We're going to jump into some of the details there, some options that we have, some concerns that we have, some problems that we're having, and how to fix them. So we've got a lot to chat about today. We are going to be recording this conversation and posting it on our YouTube channel later. So if you're not already a subscriber to our YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe and you'll get notified when we post these webinars that we do on a, on a regular ongoing basis. And let's see. But we've got Sam in the chat. She's disguised as student loan planner for her headshot. And we've got Hermes on the call too. Sam's actually not even in the country right now. Where are you at right now, Sam? If you can talk.
I am in Barcelona.
Fancy. Very fancy. And then Hermes is calling in too from Puerto Rico. So we've got folks all over the place. And I'm just in boring Atlanta, Georgia. So I'm just kidding. Atlanta is not boring. It's a great place to check out if you haven't been there before. Well, great. Well, I think we've got some folks checked in. Let's go ahead. Oh, and just some housekeeping things. Again, we're going to be recording this. You'll be able to watch it later on our YouTube channel. So go ahead and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to the Student Loan Planner YouTube channel itself. And let's go ahead and jump straight into things. So this is an interesting time. As we all know, things are changing very rapidly in the student loan world. And one of the plans that's been around, not forever, but for a bit, called PAYE, P-A-Y-E, is going away. So let's talk about if we need to be implementing this or like getting on to pay or not. There are people that should not be even entertaining pay. So let's chat about that first. And then for those that have questions, please feel welcome to throw them into the Q&A section or the chat. Hermes and Sam are both going to be answering those by typing, and then we'll read some out live here later. So to pay or not to pay. So who should even be paying attention to this? Let's get this out of the way, because I would hate for you to sit here and hang out and listen to this if it's not even applicable to you. So who is this webinar for? This is for folks who borrowed after October 1st, 2007. But before July 1st, 2014. Okay. So these two dates are important. Think back to when you first borrowed your loans. If you borrowed before October 1st, 2007, you are not going to be eligible for pay as you earn. So this is not going to be relevant to you at all. You're just not going to be able to apply for pay. You don't even need to worry about it. So the SAVE plan might be something you can consider, or new IBR. But if you borrowed after October 1st, 2007, this is for you. So if you went to undergrad in 2008, that was the first time you ever borrowed a student loan, great, this is for you. If you borrowed after July 1st, 2014, this is something to also pay attention to. If you're a really new borrower, like within the past 10 years, you borrowed your first loan ever, you don't quite need to have the same sense of urgency to consider pay as you earn, because you're eligible for new IBR. So that's this note down here. New IBR is basically the same as pay as you earn, but you don't have access to new IBR unless you borrowed after July 1st, 2014 for the first time. Okay. So how you can figure out when the first loan date you ever had was, go ahead and sign into studentaid.gov. I'll give folks a second to do that. Go ahead and sign into studentaid.gov. You'll have your username and password. You might need to reset your password if you haven't been on there in a while. Sorry, but it's probably good to have access to that website. So go ahead and do it. And you need to see, when was that first loan date? So when you get signed in, you'll see a list of your loans, or you can click view loan details, and then you'll see a list of your loans. And you can click on view details again and see when the first disbursement date was. If it was before October 1st, 2007, again, pay is not going to be an option for you. So you can go ahead and sign off. Join us on the next one for a save webinar or something. But if you borrowed before then we're not going to be eligible. If it was after July 1st, 2014, if that's the first time you ever borrowed, after July 1st, 2014, this is semi-relevant, but not really, because you still have access to new IBR, which is the same thing as pay. Okay. So I'm going to pause, let everyone maybe sign into their studentaid.gov accounts just to double check, triple check. It's worth checking, right? Because basically the whole point of this is we need to figure out if we're eligible for pay and if we need to apply or not. Because pay is sunsetting or closing down to new applicants as of basically you won't be able to enroll after June 30th. So we have 1 month to enroll in this plan and to make sure that the servicer gets you on this plan if you're eligible and if you need to be on the plan. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about like how you decide if you should be choosing this plan, if you're eligible or not here coming up. But this is first and foremost, make sure that you're checking one of these boxes or that you're between these dates. That might be the better way to say it, is if you borrowed after October 1st, 2007, but before July 2014, this is for you. Okay. So I'm going to pause and check out the chat real fast to make sure we've got some questions answered. Let's see. So if I consolidated after July 1st, 2014, but my first loans were prior to that date, am I covered? Yes. As long as they weren't before October 1st, 2007. So if you consolidated after 2014, that's fine. It just matters like when was your first loan ever borrowed? If it was before October 1st, 2007, no go. We're not going to have access to pay. If it was after October 1st, 2007, we're good, even if we consolidated. So let's see. Does that seem to be answering some of those questions, Sam and Hermes? Any ones that I should maybe chat about or that you want to speak to?
Yeah, I think we just more emphasis on cases where loans were taken out like before, but then paid off before that timeline, but also in between, like took loans out before 2007, but also after 2007.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, so it can get tricky, right? If you go to school at a couple of different times in your life and you've maybe paid off loans, borrowed more loans, paid off more loans. So it can definitely get tricky. So to try to answer that, there's one question I saw. I have a client who originally borrowed in 2006, consolidated in 2011, and consolidated again in 2024. Is he now he is now on pay? Is that accurate? That's interesting. So it doesn't sound like it should be. I wonder if the original loan. So let's talk about this. Okay, right? So if let's say you borrowed a loan in 2005 or 2006, obviously before 2007. And let's say you went to school, finished the program or withdrew from the program, started paying on that loan for a little bit, paid it off, right? Let's say you completely paid off all of your student loan debt in 2011. Let's say that that's the case. But then you go back to school in 2014 or 2013. You are going to be pay eligible because you did not have a loan outstanding before or when you were borrowing that second time, because you completely paid off the loans that were borrowed earlier. So that might answer some of those questions. If you completely paid off a loan, that was borrowed before 2007, but then you went back to school later, then you're going to be eligible for pay. Okay. Let me look at one of these other questions. Let's see. Oh, apologies meant he is in the right plan. Don't want Department of Ed to change them after the sunset date. Oh, yeah. So no one's going to be changed after the sunset date. You have to intentionally choose to be on pay or to not be on pay, to be on a different plan. So this webinar is for deciding if you need to go ahead and apply for pay or stay on pay, right? Nothing's going to be forced. After June 30th, you just won't be able to apply for the pay as you earn plan, right? So if you needed to be on it and you found this webinar on YouTube in July, that stinks because you're not going to be eligible and to apply at that time. They're going to shut it down for new applicants. But if you're already approved for the pay plan, you'll be able to stick on it. That's totally fine. So that's that. Hopefully that answers that question. And let's see, I got one more comment in the chat and then we'll move on. I took undergrad loans out in 2013 and then again in 2016 for grad school. Should I consolidate all my loans and put them under pay? I'm on the save plan right now. Some of my undergrad loans are consolidated, but not all of my grad loans are consolidated. So you would be an example of someone who's eligible for pay, who is not going to be eligible for new IBR because your first loan was borrowed in 2013. So you would be somebody who wants to decide, do I get on pay before June 30th or do I want to stay on save? There might be a case also for consolidation. That's when we combine the loans because you might have some payment credits from when you graduated and started school again that could be credited to the whole balance. We have a whole other webinar on YouTube about the IDR waiver that's going on right now that got extended to June 30th. So you might want to check that one out. But stay tuned to figure out if you need to switch to save or not. So let's jump to that. So hopefully that's helpful. If you needed to hop off, hopefully you've hopped off. If this is still relevant to you, hang out with us. So let's move on. So let's also talk just generally, why are we even considering the pay as you earn plan, the save plan? Why does this even matter? Well, if you're looking at your student loan situation and you're trying to figure out how should I be paying these off or what path should I be taking towards, tackling these overall. Student loans can be a big bear, right? Like they're not fun. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Student loans are not a fun topic. And it's a lot of times the first introduction you have to financial planning too, which is sometimes, really not exciting introduction. It could be a really bad introduction to personal finance. So you got to get it right. You've got to get on the plan that's going to make the most sense for you because your student loans can affect so much more in the future, like your tax filing status. We'll talk about that later. It could affect your budget for how much you can afford. It can affect if you're able to buy a house or not, if you're able to start a practice or not. This is a big piece to the whole financial puzzle that we need to make sure we have a good plan for. So it's worth the time and the effort and the help to figure out what you should be doing for your situation. So with that being said, there's a general rule for how to think about your student loans. So think about your balance right now. So if you don't know what your student loan balance is, go sign into that studentaid.gov website and take a look. So think about your federal student loan balance and think about where your income is right now or where it's going to be in the near future. If your balance is a lot less than your current annual income or your income is going to be in the next couple years, because I know some folks might be in residency or training, but think about where your balance is in comparison to your income. If your balance is less than your annual income, then you are probably going to be able to pay it off pretty efficiently because you've got a big shovel to pay it off with, right? Like your income is greater than your balance. You're going to have money in the budget to hopefully pay that down. Now there's of course always little exceptions to this. If you've had your loans around for a long time, then and your balance is lower than your income right now, there might still be a reason to think about a forgiveness path. So hold on with me there if that's the case. But if you're just now starting out or in the first couple of years of your plan, if your balance is lower than your income, you probably just want to pay these loans off. The pay plan or the save plan probably aren't going to be super helpful to you. right? Because we're just the benefit to those income driven plans. One is payment affordability. So you could totally use it for payment affordability for now. But long term, it's not mathematically going to be better for you. It might be better for you to pay the loans off more aggressively. And we're going to go through some examples later to kind of visualize this. So that's the first example. So if your balance is lower than income, you might want to just pay the loans off. But if the reverse is true, if your balance is a lot greater than your annual income, which is a lot of times the case these days, then you might want to take a more passive approach to your loans, which is going to mean going on an income driven plan and pursuing loan forgiveness. So each of these income driven plans, like Pay and Save, have a forgiveness threshold after either 20 or 25 years of repayment, or 10 if you're working in public service. And if if our income is a lot less than our balance, we don't have a big shovel to be paying that off really aggressively. So we need to decide, um, is if that's where our ratios are going to fall, the passive approach or the income driven forgiveness approach is probably going to make the most sense, right? So that's how you can figure out, okay, well, the income driven path probably sounds like it's the right path for me for now, at least, or not, or maybe I just need to be paying these loans off. Maybe this decision for Pay is not as big of a deal. So what's the difference between the different repayment plans? I saw that question a moment ago. So a quick and dirty idea of the differences. If you are going towards a forgiveness timeline because your balance is large, you're going to go towards forgiveness, you're probably going to want to entertain either Pay, new IBR, or Save. So this side of the screen here. There's technically 5 different income-driven plans right now. Thus why we're getting rid of Pay, or I say we, it's not me, it's Department of Ed. But that's why Pay is getting axed. A new plan, Save, came out. It took over for Repay, actually. But there's just a lot of plans. So they're trying to simplify things. And these guys have come about over different periods of time. Like ICR is the oldest plan on the block. It came out in like the 90s. Old IBR came out later, kind of earlier 2000s. And you could see that we're getting better and better. Each time a new plan comes out, the payments gets cheaper and cheaper, and the forgiveness timeline could potentially get lower or shorter. So probably not looking at one of these 2 plans. These are the more expensive income-driven plans. And if we're going towards forgiveness, we want to pay as little as possible towards the loans to maximize how much we can get forgiven. So we're going to be entertaining these 2. So Pay as you earn is the one we're trying to decide if we should be executing on today. Like, should we be applying for Pay in this next month or not? New IBR is virtually the same as the Pay as you earn plan. But remember our eligibility requirements. We have access to new IBR only if we're a brand new borrower. We don't have any outstanding loans as of July 1st, 2014. So this is like if you borrowed in 2015 for the first time, or 2016 for the first time, or you paid off all your old loans before then and borrowed again for the first time after 2014. So new IBR, virtually the same as Pay as you earn. This plan is 10% of your discretionary income. So they take your adjusted gross income, subtract a poverty line deduction, and divide that by 12, times 10%, divide that by 12, you get your monthly payment. And it's a 20-year timeline to forgiveness. So that's why Pay might be attractive for somebody on this call, because the Save plan is a little different. It's between 5 or 10% of discretionary income. If you have undergraduate loans, the payment, the weighted payment towards those undergraduate loans would be based on 5% of your discretionary income. If you have graduate school loans, they're going to be based on 10% of discretionary income, but still with a slightly larger poverty line deduction, which just means that Save, no matter what, is going to be slightly cheaper than the payment calculation on Pay, unless we're talking about a capped payment, which we'll come back to. But Save generally is going to be cheaper for a monthly payment because of the 5% to undergraduate loans and the larger poverty line, the slightly lower 10% calculation for save in general. So that's a plus to save, right? If the payment's cheaper, that's pretty attractive. But if we have graduate school loans, no matter what, like if we went to graduate school, borrowed one loan, withdrew, and didn't finish, we're going to be stuck on this 25-year timeline to forgiveness. Okay. So graduate loans, we have 25 years. If we just have undergraduate loans, the max is 20 years, but that's probably not most folks on this call. Most folks are probably graduate school folks here today. Now, pay is 20 years no matter what. So that's why pay is attractive, because pay could be shorter. Even though the payment might be slightly higher than save, it's 20 years to forgiveness instead of 25. Now, this is for those who are not doing PSLF. So if you're working in public service at a nonprofit or a government entity, your timeline is 10 years no matter what, which is great. But if you're not in public service, it's either a 20 or 25-year timeline. And so that's why this decision is so important, because we need to figure out, does this make more sense for you, even though the payment's slightly higher, but it has a shorter timeline? Or does the much lower payment, or I wouldn't say much lower, is the slightly lower payment better for you with a 25-year timeline? Because the other benefit to save here, I'm going to flip over here real fast. The other benefit to save is that it has a really nice interest deduction. So right here, oops, went too fast. So an interest subsidy, that is a discount on interest, right? So for example, let me give you an example. Let's say your income produces a payment on save of $500 a month, but your interest charge per month is $800, right? So, because that could happen if your balance is really big, you've got a not so great interest rate, your interest cost per month calculated on that monthly payment should be $800. But since we're on an income-driven plan, the payment's just based on income, not principal and interest. It's just based on income. So the $500 payment goes straight to interest first. That's the hierarchy order that they apply payments to. And then there's $300 that goes unpaid. So what used to happen is that $300 or a portion of it would be added to your balance, and your balance would grow over time. So some of you sitting in here might be thinking, oh man, that's why my balance has grown historically. Like that's why it kept going and going and going up, even though I was paying. It's because you weren't paying the interest cost each month, but the plan doesn't require you to. So there was no, negative repercussions to that for your credit. But the save plan is cool. What it does is it waives any unpaid interest. So let's use that same example. We pay the $500 that's required. $800 was the interest cost. So $500 goes to interest. The $300 that's left over is waived completely. So waived, forgiven, discharged, whatever you want to call it. It's waived. So your balance doesn't go up, it stays stagnant. So why does that even matter? So there's lots of benefits to that. One is if, you're going towards loan forgiveness, as of right now, the balance that gets forgiven in the future could have a taxable consequence to you. Who knows what might happen in the future, but right now that tax implication is waived until 2026. So people are legitimately getting to their 20 or 25-year timeline of forgiveness, and they're getting their loans discharged or forgiven, and they're not having to pay taxes or anything on that forgiven balance. That's not a student loan thing. That's like a IRS thing. The IRS sees that forgiven balance as a benefit to you, so they want to go and tax it. Of course, right? So now that may or may not be there in the future. We don't know. Our planning, when we do planning with clients, we plan for that tax implication. And even though that might sound scary, mathematically, it still might make sense to do that forgiveness path. So like I mentioned, we're going to go through some examples to visualize this. But that's why save is also pretty beneficial too, is it's got that interest subsidy, which means your balance isn't going to be ballooning over time. And then the balance that gets forgiven, whatever, that is, we pay less income tax on. Pay doesn't have that same interest subsidy. So another pro to pay, or sorry, another pro to save to compare to pay. So there's a lot of nuance to this. That's what makes this really complicated. That's why you might be feeling like, you know, you want to pull your hair out sometimes. Like it is complicated and nuanced. Um, I don't think the system was designed to be easy, even though they're trying to make it easier. It's not so easy. I'll just say that. So the question is, should we be choosing pay for your situation or should we be on the save plan? So let's go through some examples. I'm going to pull up our calculator that we use in consultations to help clients figure this out. In the meantime, Sam, would you be okay with reading some of the questions and answering them live while I just pull up the worksheet?
Sure, I'm gonna go right ahead here. I just want to make sure, because I know we have people coming in on the chat here. And we have a question here that came in on the chat, not the Q&A, that says, I am currently on pay with loans in my name with 20. Oh, sorry, I think you actually might have already gotten that one. Sorry. So actually there's a question that just came in here. When it says no changes after 60 payments, does that mean no changes into save or out of it? So the 60-month payment limit is something specific to save. So because save for grad loans is a 25-year plan and new IBR and pay are 20-year plans for grad loans, the Department of Education is essentially trying to, eliminate people spending 19 years on one and then switching over. So you have a kind of like that 5-year limit, that's 60 months, to be able to leave save before being kind of, that's your only income driven repayment plan. Of course, you can go on a non-income driven repayment plan. This isn't the rest of your life, but you wouldn't be able to jump to new IBR at that case. Here.
I'm going to pull that up on a different screen, actually, so you can keep going.
Oh, sorry, actually, I misspoke. So someone said I'm currently on pay with loans in my name with 20-year forgiveness. The goal, I'm adjusted tax filing status to married file separately. My wife is a teacher. Can I transfer loans to her name so she can get those loans on PSLF? So unfortunately not. So when once loans are taken out in your name in the federal system, they're going to stay like that in the federal system because it's attached to your basically essentially your tax ID number, right? The only way to ever change that is to refinance, which is definitely not something we're talking about tonight. And that would be taking it out of the federal system, which is something we don't necessarily recommend up front. But there is no, unfortunately, way to do that. So if you are a parent here that's considering taking out, let's say, loans for your child, Parent Plus loans, one thing we look at in our consultations is which parent is potentially eligible for PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness, and should that be the parent that actually ends up taking the loan out for their child in school. But just a heads up for future. If you have Parent Plus loans, but your parent is paying them, is that something you should consider in determining which plan is best? Well, yeah, that's a conversation you definitely want to loop your parents in, since depends on the relationship there, right? But I would say you're going to look at which is going to ultimately, and we work with a lot of Parent Plus borrowers, and Megan is the cream of the crop when it comes to Parent Plus borrowers, but we look at ultimately what is their goal? Is it keeping the payment super low? And if they're okay with having 5 more years of forgiveness length, that could work for it, or are we working with the Parent Plus borrower that is trying to get these loans forgiven as quick as possible? So everyone's goals and priorities, especially for parents who might be heading into retirement, are ultimately going to be different. And so I can't answer that and say yes or this, but it depends, or as they say in Spain, depende.
One quick thing I'll throw in there. We do have a Parent Plus webinar coming up, actually. So that might be something for you guys to check out if you or your parents have Parent Plus loans, because those are a different ball game. I'll just say that. They are very different than the loans that you have yourselves. So having a game plan for those could be really important, especially if you're the one paying them. So you might have to take the initiative to figure out your options with those Parent Plus loans. So that webinar is going to be next Tuesday, so June 4th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll find the webinar link and throw it in the chat if anyone needs it, but that's something you could look out for. One question I got, Hermes had sent to me. So I have loans from 2013 and have been on pay until COVID when payments were frozen. Then I entered deferment because I'm going back to school. Do I need to reapply for pay before the deadline to ensure I still have access? This is a good question because kind of like I mentioned earlier, like going to school at different times might complicate this scenario. So, your current loans, I think would stay. Well, we actually don't know how that's going to work. I'll be honest and say that. The way it has worked in the past is when you graduate your new program, you're going to have to apply for a repayment plan at that time. And usually all of your loans are put on the same repayment plan. They have to be if they're all eligible for the same repayment plan. So my worry for you right there is that when you enter repayment on the new loans that well, if you're borrowing, that might be the other question is if you're borrowing for this new program, those new loans might make your old loans have to enter repayment on the plans that exist at that time. So just be prepared to not have access to pay when you enter repayment in the future. But if you're someone who's not borrowing for this current program, you're going back to school, but you're paying out of pocket, I would recommend just staying in repayment on pay if you can, because the risk is you might lose pay by going into in-school deferment and having to reapply for a plan in the future, which we cannot reapply for pay in the future. It's not going to be available. So that would be my advice there if you're kind of in the midst of a program and you're not sure, because we're not sure what that's going to look like. But the safe answer is to stay in repayment on pay if you can. The good news is about, the repayment. The payment could be zero if you're going back to school and you're not working. The payment on an income-driven plan could be as low as zero, but definitely a risk that you won't have it if you have to apply on your newer loans for a new plan later. So, okay. I'm going to get to some scenarios which might be helpful to really bring this all together. And then we'll spend a lot of time towards the end going through questions. And then for those who are live, we do have a little bit of a surprise towards the end. So hang out with us till the end, get your questions answered. And then we'll unveil the surprise later. So let's talk about a scenario. So this is a legitimate scenario I had recently. Someone's balance, someone's interest rate. They had been in repayment, well, technically out of school since 2020. They graduated kind of in the midst of COVID, which I'm sure some of you have on this call, which was an interesting time, right? We didn't have to pay for a really long time. They kicked payments back on for everybody September of last year. So this is probably still new to you. Like repayment in general might be new to you or feel new to a lot of people because we were not in repayment for a really long time because of COVID, right? So I put in the starting date as 2020 because COVID counted towards income-driven forgiveness timelines, which was awesome. It wasn't going to like delay forgiveness for people. So that's our starting point. This person doesn't work for public service. This person did not borrow before 2007. So we need to maybe entertain if pay is something we should consider. And let's just pretend that all of their loans were graduate loans, 100% graduate. That's all we borrowed for. And let's say that our situation, is a little interesting. We've got actually, let me change the date here. So one thing to know is when you apply for an income-driven plan, the application is going to link back to a prior year's tax return. Okay, so if you apply for pay today, it's going to link back to 2023's tax return if you already filed. If you didn't file yet because you extended, it's going to link back to 2022's tax return. So that's something to just know in general. It always links back to a prior tax return. Now, in this example, this person already had a payment at play. I kind of backed into what that payment was. I used their income here to back into what their current payment was. But we needed to figure out what's your payment going to change to, and should we be going on pay or should we be staying on the save plan because they were currently on the save plan when they came to us. So this person married, one child, so family of three, and married filing separate, married filing jointly. So this does matter. if you don't already know this, if you're married and let's say your spouse does not have student loans, if you file taxes jointly, your student loan payment is going to be based off of joint income. Even if you don't link back to a tax return, um, if you're filing jointly and you have to disclose that and be honest about it, even if you're submitting pay stubs, they're going to ask for your spouse's pay stub to verify income. So there's no way around it if you're filing jointly, unless you're going through a separation or you're about to be divorced. There are those types of exceptions, but if you guys live together or, you know, you're on the call together when we do your consult, we have to file separate to exclude spousal income. And that's the only way we could do it. So that's why married separate or taxes come into play. I mentioned that in the beginning. Tax filing status matters. So if you're married, sometimes it can make sense to file taxes separately to keep the payment off of just your income instead of the household income, because that could be a much, much lower payment. So for example, I'll start this out at joint. Let's say last year they weren't married. They had income of about 197. This I pull straight from like somebody's tax returns. This was their adjusted gross income on there. If you would like to know, it's line 11 on your 1040. That's the number that they pull. And then this year they expect to make just a little bit more, maybe cost of living adjustment. And they're married. They got married this year, so their spouse's income situation is going to be at play, right? So in this example, let's say actually they started off single, and then we're going to have our let's see, let me make sure I have this in right. We're going to have our 2024, our second or our child enter the picture later or this year. So I put it in as joint so we could see what does it look like if they're looking at both of our incomes here, right? So let's flip over to calculations. Now, this is the calculator we use in consultations to help people figure this stuff out. So there's a lot of numbers on here, but we're going to really zoom in on what we're trying to compare. And that's the pay plan to the save plan. So initially our payment's going to be like dirt cheap. They just started work. They don't have a lot of income, but the year that they're single, 2023's taxes, this would be their payment between pay and save. So like I mentioned earlier, save is slightly cheaper. It's usually about $100 cheaper, $75 to $100 cheaper maybe. Depends on your family size and your income, of course, but it's a little bit cheaper per month. But then look at our payment when we're filing jointly. It essentially doubles, right? Our payment on pay is $2,700. Our payment on save is $2,500, almost $2,600. So that's if we're filing jointly. What if we go and file separately instead when we go to file taxes for 2024? Instead of $2,700, that payment's going to be less. It's going to be a lot less, $1,287 for that same example, or $1,400 under the pay example. So filing separately, that conversation with your CPA matters. Don't skimp over that, because I know it's kind of a weird conversation too. Most CPAs will definitely ask you like, what the heck? Why do you want to file separate? Because most people file joint. That totally is what we typically do. But student loans are a very big reason why you might want to consider filing separately, even if we miss out on some of the tax benefits of filing jointly. You can weigh those pros and cons, but in this example, like let's take this number. Let's just take the pay number. So 1422, that's the payment if we're doing married separate. If we do married joint, that payment's going to be 2767. So 2767 minus, I have the memory of a goldfish sometimes here. Let me go back and get that number. 1422. So minus 1422. That's a difference of $13.45 a month. Like a month. So that times 12 is 16,000. That's how much you would save to file separately on the pay plan in this example. So of course your numbers are going to be totally different because you and your spouse's income is totally different than the numbers I'm using, right? But this is a common example I see, like pretty similar earning spouses. One has student loan debt. I know there's a billion different ways we can look at this, but this might be just like why we talk about filing separately, because it matters. Saves you a lot of money. So let's say that this case where we've decided, okay, married separate makes sense. We're going to do that. I'll listen to you, right? So pay as you earn, save. So we know that save is slightly cheaper, right? The monthly payment is a little bit cheaper. Pay is not too much more, but it is more per month. We know that pay, though, for this person is going to be a 20-year timeline. Save is going to be 25 years. So that's 5 extra years of payments. But save is slightly cheaper for that 25-year time period, and it has that interest subsidy to keep the balance lower that we might have to pay taxes on later. So let's see what this looks like. All right. So this next page will stack up all the different options that we have. Let's just pretend we're not talking about PSLF at all in this example. So I'm going to hide that. So what we've got here and what we want to look at is what is that total cost of loan payback? And I also like to look at it in net present value terms or NPV terms. That's like a financial term, but we're also talking about money that's a long time away from now. 25 years is a long way away. Money is going to spend very differently 25 years from now, just like it did 25 years ago. If you can remember like what stuff used to cost even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like money changes. So this helps us just put it into perspective for the timeline that we're looking at compared to other timelines. But total cost, we'll just go with this because that's just add up the payments, add up the potential tax implication. So the pay-as-you-earn plan, what highlights in green is the lowest total cost in both sections. So the lowest total cost for the total loan payback is actually the standard 10-year plan in this example, paying it all off within a 10-year timeline. That total cost shakes out to about $442 in this example. So this person had, what is it? 321, 322 of student loan debt. So 442, and we're comparing that to pay and save because that's the question. Do we pay the loans off? That's one. Or do we do forgiveness? And do we do pay or do we do save if we're going to be doing forgiveness? So there's kind of like a decision tree for every plan we have to think about. So one might say on its face, like, oh, well, standard 10-year looks better. Well, are you ready to commit $3,700 a month to that plan? To pay that off in 10 years, $3,700 a month. Are you willing and able and committed to make that payment for 10 years to pay this all off? Or for a similar cost, should we be doing the pay plan? So this is not that much more expensive. It's $453 for the total cost here. But when we look at it from a net present value perspective, it's a lot cheaper, right? This is a longer period of time. Our monthly payment is a lot lower over time than that $3,700. So imagine like your other goals. Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to start a family? Can you do that paying $3,700, $3,800 a month? Maybe, that might limit your options or limit where you're living or the size of your home, or it might limit things in general. That's the point. The pay plan, we pay less than half, right? What is that? 3,700 divided by 2. Yeah, way less than half. 1,400 here. 15. It's slightly going up because it's assuming your income goes up over time. So that's what we have to think about there, is just like, what is our income going to be later? But the total cost here is $453, so pretty similar. So someone might look at these numbers and say, hey, this actually makes more sense for me. I like the lower payment. I like the thought of, just getting these loans forgiven, taking it slower so I can accomplish other things with my money. I don't want student loans to be the focus of everything, right? So how we kind of break down these columns, the payments over here, we'd be paying about $310 towards the loans. That's just those payments added up over the time that we have left towards forgiveness. This person already had a little bit of a head start. So they started in 2020. So 20 years from there is going to be 2040. The balance at the time of forgiveness is going to be $356. So that's higher than the balance is now. Pay doesn't have that subsidy that Save does, like we talked about. So that makes sense. This balance is slightly higher than our original balance. Whatever gets forgiven, we may have to pay taxes on. Now, some of you may have choked on your water looking at this number. So I'll give you a second. All right, let's talk about it. Right. So the taxes due column here, this is pretty scary, especially if this is the first time you're hearing about this. So the IRS looks at any forgiven debt and sees it as taxable to you because it was a benefit that you got that debt forgiven. So this you technically get a 1099 for. You pay taxes on that 1099 that tax season. So this wouldn't come until after the forgiveness happened, but the IRS would say, "Hey, you owe us 142 come tax season, and you are supposed to pay that in full." The weirdness about this, let's talk about that. The positive things. People haven't paid this yet because they waived this tax implication until 2026. So people, again, are legitimately getting this forgiveness and they're not having to pay taxes on it. So we're wondering if that could set the expectation or, the people are already talking about it in Congress. Biden literally talked about this 2 months ago about wanting to eliminate this tax implication for forgiven student loan debt. So who knows what'll happen, right? We can't control that exactly, but we can plan for it just in case. So this 142 plus the 310 of payments is how we get to this 453 total cost number. So that's all baked in here. 453, that's our total cost. Payments plus the taxes. So in our planning, we talk about planning for this tax implication too. We make the student loan payments that are required, don't pay anything more, and then we set aside money for that potential tax implication, right? So we set money aside so it's not a surprise. So with that being said, that this is much cheaper than save. So one might be looking at this and say, okay, well, I don't want to be super aggressive. I don't want to completely focus on the student loans. I don't want that to be the focus of my financial plan for 10 years. So I'm going to go with pay. And if that's the case, and you're not already on pay, you need to apply for it before June 30th, right? The save plan in this example for this income scenario is more expensive because we're paying a lot more for the 5 extra years that we're paying. But I want to show you how it can change depending on your income situation. So those are some numbers to start with. Let me drop our income scenario over here to 127. So let's shave this down a bit and see what it does to our numbers. So if our income is lower, that means our payments on both plans are going to be lower, right? Because they're based on income. Let's look at the main page now. Tables have turned. So in this example, the pay-as-you-earn plan is actually more expensive than the save plan. Why the heck is that? What, right? So it's still a 20-year timeline. The timeline is still shorter. That is still true. But our balance balloons, right? Because we don't have that interest subsidy on pay. Our payment is really low. So there's a lot of accruing interest that's building and growing on this balance. And that taxes due just gets larger. So that means we have to save more. The payment's still based on income, but we have to save more for the taxes. So that total cost is this $374 in this example compared to save, where we do pay more towards the payments because we're paying for 5 years longer. But the balance that gets forgiven is what it is today, 321. So the tax implication here is lower. So that ultimately is what makes the save plan cheaper. Now, these numbers are still close, and I do want to mention that there is some risk to this save plan. So in this example, save does seem to be cheaper. If someone didn't care about the timeline so much, they just cared about the total cost, one might want to choose save. And that's okay. But I do want to mention that the pay plan, new IBR, those are legislatively, I guess that's the way you could say it, safer because they were brought about. We know right now you could be locked into pay. They can't take it away from you if you apply for it. New IBR, it is something that everyone would have to vote against for new IBR to go away, which is really hard to do in government, Congress, all the things. SAVE was brought about by executive order. It was recently brought about. It is a little riskier, right? We may not always have access to the SAVE plan in the way that it is right now. It is a really great plan for a lot of different reasons. It could have a target on its back for changes. So if you're someone who's a little more risk averse, you don't like things that could change, then maybe the pay plan is safer for you, even if it's slightly more expensive, because there's not as much of a risk of it changing to change these numbers, right? So these are some of the things a lot of the things we chat about in our consultations to really help people navigate like which plan is best for you. But I wanted to show an example of like, one balance, the same balance, but different income situations changing whether or not we choose pay or save. There's not an exact ratio or calculation for it. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on income, depends on if you're married, if you're filing separately or not, what you prefer, if you'd prefer a shorter timeline or if you'd prefer the lowest payment possible. So there's a lot of things that we'd have to take into account and talk through with you to make sure we're zoning in on the right plan. But we do have, so student loan planner, of course, that's what we do. We do one-on-one consultations. We really take 1 hour, sit down, walk through all of your options, answer all of your specific questions to your specific situation, and help you really navigate what to do. So let's see, let's pause. I think that's the main topics I wanted to get through today. Let's see if we could get to some questions. Let's see. I think folks, y'all have been doing great with like crushing the questions in the chat. Let me look at Q&A. Any common questions, Sam or Hermes, that you think we should bring to light before we start to close out and before we talk about the discount on the consultation service?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of course, everyone here has their own personal scenarios of what ifs, and I think that's what we go over a bunch in our consults. And so I think sometimes I think we want to make it clear that, we don't know the future, like from what you just described. There's so much in play here that sometimes you have to, with your student loan plan, have to take a short-term hedge approach, right? If we want to kind of go into that, where, I was just saying to one person who's considering save versus pay, it was like, there is political questions regarding save, but in theory, right, if save was there, you'll always have the right to go to save, but you will definitely lose the right to go to pay. And so like kind of maybe talk more about like how sometimes we have a short-term and long-term plan with student loans.
Yeah, that's a great thing to mention too. And then another thing to kind of tee up that as well is, the question might be too, like, when do I apply, or should I be applying now? So yes, if you have to be on pay, you need to apply by June 30th. If you're already on pay, let's say you're already on pay, but save is attractive to you for a number of reasons. You don't have to switch to save immediately. You can hang out on pay until you have to update your income. So that's something to know as well. But I think, Sam, you said it really well. Like, we could always start out on pay if we want to lock in the certainty, because we do have elections coming up. We want to lock in the certainty because we know we can apply for pay now. We know we could be kind of grandfathered into it at this point after they shut it down. Then go ahead and do that, because you can always switch from pay to save. We just can't switch from save later after June 30th to pay. So that's really the decision is, do we need to lock in pay? And if so, you need to go ahead and apply. So how do you do that? You do this through studentaid.gov. Technically, you could do this on your servicers portal, but it's going to direct you to studentaid.gov anyways. So go there, and if you link to your tax return to verify income, you'll be able to select the pay as you earn plan. So let me actually bring this up a little larger. So some issues we've been seeing with applying is if you're using alternative documentation of income, so let's say a pay stub or a W-2 instead of your tax return for some reason. Maybe there's issues with linking to the IRS, or your income is lower now than the tax return. You are not going to be able to select the pay plan if you do an online application. There's kind of a weird flow. They're trying to automize a lot of things, make everything like digital, and go through this like, funnel to basically get you through, get you on the plan, get you set up without a person having to touch it. that sometimes fails, right? That we sometimes get caught in this spot where it doesn't do what it should have done. And so we have to kind of push it to a person or know that that's going to be a problem and find a way around it. So if you are completing the application to apply and it's not giving you the option to specifically choose pay, you're going to have to use a paper income driven application, which you can Google. You can go to Google and just type in income driven application PDF. It'll show up. You print it, you fill it out, you choose pay specifically, and you upload that to your student loan portal. So that is the workaround if you're having troubles actually getting the online application to allow you to choose pay. Because if it says something like, oh, your servicer will pick the plan for you, they'll pick the best plan for you, they're going to put you on save. So just know that. So the student loan system, your servicer, they're going to do what's fastest and easiest for them. Their save is probably a great answer for a lot of people. That's probably a great plan for, I wouldn't say most people, but a lot of people. But if you know you need to be on pay and it's not giving you that option on the online app, you might have to do the paper application to force it. And that's something to be aware of. That's something that all of our consultants on the team are able to help with. If you're having some troubles, we can help you troubleshoot it. So that's the biggest issue we've been seeing. Another just thing to mention is Nelnet, the company. If you're consolidating your loans for some reason now, you're not going to be able to choose Nelnet as a loan servicer. They're not accepting new applications. If you're already at Nelnet, you're fine. But that's just one thing to mention. If you get if you don't see them as an option and you were planning to go to Nelnet, that's something to be aware of. Now, one thing I want to mention before we close out, and we'll just get to some questions. So again, we do one-on-one consultations. If you need some help with this, don't hesitate to reach out. We can do a full student loan plan for you. I'm putting the discount link in the chat. Everybody should be able to see it and click on it, and it'll take you to our scheduling calendar. That discount link is going to give you $100 off the consultation. So there's a lot of, again, technicalities when it comes to choosing pay versus save. If you have any doubt, if you need some help, don't make the mistake of not getting help, okay? Because this could be a huge misstep if we're not on pay, if we don't get the plan that we needed or wanted, if we made some kind of error or we had some kind of misconception about something. So if you have any doubts about what plan you should be on, talk with us because we can help you really drill down to what we think you should do, talk through the pros and cons, and help give you confidence in what you should do. And also talk through like, hey, if XYZ happens, this is what you could do later. So it's let's see. People say they can't see the link. Oh, I think it's because I put it to just the hosts and panelists. So sorry, I will post that now. Everyone should be able to see it. Did not mean to do that for the anticipation, I promise. So that's the link, the discount link that you could check out. If you need some help, get it. We've got availability that we can help between now and June 30th. And let's see, I've got some time. I know we're coming up on time, but I will maybe see if I could answer some questions in the chat. Let's see. Hermes, I think, is typing to this question, but if I filed, oh, it's gone. It's okay. I'm going to go find one in the chat. What's stopping servicers from automatically switching your loan from pay to save when you certify in the future? So that's a good question. When you recertify, you are simply just updating your income. It is a different application on the website. So the application itself that you're doing is simply just giving them the ability to look at your new income and update the plan that you're on. There is another link on the website. Let's see if I could actually pull that up to give you a visual. So let's see. This is studentaid.gov. I'm going to go to loan repayment. Let me just move the chat. Loan repayment, income-driven repayment plans. And you'll see two applications here. So you'll see one to apply for an income-driven plan. So that's if you're brand new, you're not on one now. And you'll see one to manage your income-driven plan. So when you recertify, you're going to be sent here. Manage your income-driven plan. And I'll show you the next question it's going to ask. Why are you doing this application? So you need to answer this question correctly. Pay attention when you're doing this. So we're going to be recalculating your monthly payment. That's when you recertify. You don't want to click switch your current plan, right? Because we don't want to switch your current plan if you're on pay in the future and that's the plan you want to stay on. But that's what you want to look out for. And that'll protect you from being switched into the wrong plan. Let's see. The IRS is even more evil than I thought. Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, hopefully it doesn't exist. Those numbers look way better if that tax implication doesn't exist, but we will still prepare for it. We like to plan for the worst. That way you are prepared for the worst and hopefully super happy if we're wrong. We love to be wrong on that side of the equation. Like when we estimate or we're super conservative and we're wrong in that sense, like we told you to save for the tax bomb and it didn't exist in the future. Great. I am totally fine with me being wrong there. I would rather that be the case versus tell you not to save and then oops, there's a tax implication. That would be bad.
Hey, Megan, can you actually pull up, if you have it easily, the spreadsheet? Because there's like this one visual thing I like to, with these what ifs about the tax bomb, which we don't know. And, I was talking about that short-term hedge. I like to bring them to the calculation page and then I tell them to ignore like 90% of Travis's columns. And then if you go all the way, can you go to the annual balance on pay column?
Let's see.
I feel like this is just went right past AC. So like I like to tell people, especially when Megan was breaking down that like main page where we saw this huge balance of pay compared to save, that didn't happen overnight. That took years of dedication of being on this forgiveness plan, right? And you can see it right here from 2024 to 2025. Yes, the balance does go up, but it doesn't get to 486 overnight. So a short-term hedge might not be a terrible thing for that peace of mind of a bunch of what ifs.
Yep. Yeah. And the difference too, like, let's say you start out on pay or you don't need to switch out of pay yet. Because if you do switch or if you make changes, you're gonna have to update your income. So that's the reality too. You have to take that into account. But I think if the tax implication does exist, let's see. I was just looking at the numbers and how it goes. Yeah, if you're accruing interest, and the tax implication does exist, the small changes year to year that they're factored into this other calculator. Sorry, I thought I was gonna have something more profound to say right there, but I think you said it well, Sam. Okay, let's see. I'm just making sure there's nothing else super timely. Let's see. Okay, so that same link, so if you have been if you've done a consultation with us before, that same link will work. You could go ahead and use that. You would be a follow-up customer, so just tell your consultant you're a follow-up consultant or consultation. So our follow-ups are usually $100 off to get your plan updated, and you could use this discounted link as well. This link or this recording is going to be on YouTube. So if you wanted to go back and watch any of this, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to have that posted as soon as we can get it downloaded and uploaded. But thank you guys for hanging out with us. As always, student loans are complicated. Hopefully you took a couple nuggets from this to be able to apply to your situation. I know things are super specific, to your situation. It's hard to answer some of the very specific questions because it depends on your specific situation. So schedule a consultation if you need some help. Hopefully this gave you something to work off of and move forward with, but I won't hold you any longer. We're a little bit over. But thanks for hanging out with us. Any parting words, Hermes or Sam?
Remember the deadline.
Yeah. Remember the deadline. Remember the trick if you're having trouble getting on pay, submit a paper application. You could fill it out manually and upload it to the servicer's website. That has been working. So we've been having good success with that. Let's see. I did see somebody ask a question on that, so I'll touch on that real quick. It sounds like if we haven't submitted the application to switch our plan, Then when should we plan to submit a paper application? Also, do we need to just apply for the plan by 6:30, or do we need to actually be accepted into the plan by 6:30? Mohila is switching accounts to a new program. So there is kind of a blackout period right now with Mohila if they're your servicer, or they're not processing things. But if you apply that by 6:30, that should be fine. I would recommend applying as soon as possible in case there are any hiccups. In case there's an issue, they need to come back and ask questions. It gives you plenty of time to figure stuff out. It makes me nervous saying go apply on the deadline, because that does not give you any time to fix anything. And we're dealing with the Department of Ed and their servicers. So,
Hey, again, one quick question. Are we gonna have a
Mhm.
recording for the webinar, and where can people find that?
Yep, it's going to be on YouTube. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and we'll post it there later this evening.
And remember, guys, you
Alright.
are always your biggest advocate, right? So when you're calling servicers, and this is a time to nag, this is not a time to wait on your hands and wait for things to get processed. This is this. And so sometimes when you're not hearing the answer you think is right, hang up and call again, get a different rep. Keep going, because they don't know the situation like you do.
Yeah. And they don't care enough about it like you do. So you are your own advocate. That's a great way to put it. Alrighty. Well, thank you guys. Y'all have a lovely evening. Let us know if you need some help. Use that discount if you need some help, and we'll see you later.